So Heather and I are here with members of the band Doomsday Profit. Welcome to the show. Thank you guys for speaking with us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
Of course. In now I think November 14th is when your album is going to be released. Is that
November 12th, that Friday?
November 12th? Okay.
Yes.
November 12th. But definitely worth checking out. If you get the chance, there's a demo called Abandoned Hope that's available on Bandcamp. So you can sort of see the derivation of everything.
Yeah, we've got 2 songs from that demo are re-recorded for the new album. And by the way, Andrew, thanks for featuring that demo on Fistful of Faithful back when it came out last year, and for being a supporter of the band early on.
Yeah. Well, I was telling Heather before. By the way, could you let us know? I'm going to butcher I know the new album is In Orbit.
Yes, it's called In Idle Orbit.
In Idle, that's
taking a line from Scryers of the Smoke.
No,
or from
Consume the Remains.
From Consume the Remains, that's right. We like to pull a sort of like a deep cut lyric for titles, and then for me to forget which song they're in.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, if we're talking about forgetting things, I've sort of cornered the market on that, so I'll probably ask you again. But yeah, no, I was telling Heather before we started recording that was one of the more fun aspects of Fistful of Faithful, was sort of doing deep dives and finding, bands and then giving them an opportunity to play their music. So, but yeah, it's much nicer now to have a partner in crime. So Heather, it's more fun for me. While I miss sometimes doing the deep dives into YouTube, I still do them, I guess, just without having the show to showcase. But this is a sort of a great way to get the music out there. So Doomsday Profit, I know you guys are going to be playing a couple gigs next month, in anticipation of the album coming out. But it's a solid sort of doom sludge psych album. If any of that is in your, talking to our audience directly now, if any of that is in your wheelhouse, pre-order the album In Idle Orbit from Doomsday Profit and check out their demo that you can find on Bandcamp. But yeah, what anything you guys want to say about the album? Any influences or funny stories or anything?
Well, millions of influences, I think, is safe to say. I think for us, we were sort of champing at the bit to get something recorded. When COVID hit early 2020, we were getting ready to go in and make an EP. And we're kind of starting to make plans for that when we kind of had a forced year off, and so we're just excited to have something that actually sounds pretty good, we think. We recorded with Scotty Sandwich at the Sandwich Shop in Oxford, North Carolina. He does a great job and is super easy to work with, and we just had a good time going up there for a couple weekends and knocking it out. As far as influences, we really are all over the place, and like you, I think we're all into the deep dives and sort of digging into the annals of the internet to find new bands and new sounds all the time. So.
Yeah, it's weird being on the other side of this, because I also have a radio show on WHUP in Hillsborough, and we play garage rock and punk rock and stuff, but sourcing from all over the world. So I've done a lot of Zoom interviews with bands, so it's kind of interesting to be on the other side. But yeah, that quest for always looking for new music is definitely always thirsty for that. So
Definitely.
Lots of influences.
Well, yeah, it was interesting because beforehand, Heather and I were talking about the new album, and we were trying to sort of figure out, like, okay, does this sound like anything at all? Like, how would you describe, because there are so many different blends of stuff, and it does sound somewhat, you'd like, there are elements where I'd be like, okay, this sounds a little bit like this band, but it doesn't really carry over that much.
Thanks.
Yeah,
I think
that's a huge compliment.
I think one of the things that I am always reflecting on is all four of us we all have overlapping musical interests. I mean, we all love the genre that we play. We all love a lot of the same music that we all listen to, but we all listen to kind of different quadrants of music. I mean, I listen to more like heavy psych, garage punk, prog stuff, even like, Americana and jazz.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd say if you were to get into our listening habits, we're really across the board.
Yeah.
Like, I love Napalm Death and Julian Baker equally, and neither of those really have anything to do with what we play. So obviously there's the staples, your Black Sabbath and Sleep and Electric Wizard. I really like harsher sounding stuff. Bands like Weed Eater and Bongzilla, Church of Misery are huge for me personally. But I also am the one that sort of tilts us towards more hardcore and death metal. Trad Yancey, our drummer, who's also in Crystal Spiders, is he's really big into the stoner rock and kind of more groovy, bluesy, heavy rock, and has also played in pub rock bands and alt country bands, punk bands. And then Kevin C., our lead guitarist, is a big jam band fan. He loves classic rock and, is an encyclopedia of music knowledge in his own right. So
he takes us to space.
He does. Yeah. I think the way that we've worked out is we just all love music. We sort of arrived at sort of a core of doom and sludge metal is something that we all really enjoy, but try not to limit ourselves in painting within the lines too much. And I think the complement is an important aspect, but the contrast is too. And I think, where Ryan may want to go a little bit more complex and spacey, I just kind of want to keep, a good caveman riff just pummeling underneath it all. So it's been a fun experiment trying to kind of figure out what the four of us are, as a unit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's interesting you had mentioned Weed Eater, because when we were talking before and Heather we were trying to sort of figure out, like, okay, what are these vocals similar to? And then that was which her suggestion was, this sort of reminds me of Weed Eater. So it's good to know that we were on the right track.
Yeah, and thank you.
She was, at least.
Yeah, that's high praise.
High praise. Dixie Dave is definitely a big vocal influence for me. And it's I like I said, I really like harsher sounds and I love harsh vocals. But I also like when you can kind of make out what they're saying. That's more of my hardcore punk roots, where it's less about the sort of guttural effect and more about the kind of declarative intent. So, as much as I kind of tilt into more dramatic presentation, I also try to keep that core of, just some guy yelling at you in the front row and keep that kind of energy.
Well, it works really well, what you had just said, with regard to each of you kind of bringing different elements to it. All the songs I felt really, it incorporated all that stuff really well. So the goal has been reached, in my opinion.
Thank you.
What you were trying to do.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can definitely, that's a pull quote for you if you need it. But
Take it.
but it was interesting because when I was, when we do our show, sometimes we'll sort of go through each track and discuss the details. So I was listening to each of your tracks, and it was funny because I started out and I was like, okay, well, this is clearly my favorite song on this album. And then I would listen to the next one and I would go, well, okay, maybe this one, but that's it. I'm stopping after. And then I would get, and then I got to like the third one and I was like, okay, this is just getting ridiculous now because there are only like 7 songs on the album and I've already picked 50% of it.
And one of them is like half the runtime. So
right. Well, yeah, no, I think what I can't remember what I think maybe Sestota is what I had, or Consume the Remains. And then that's where I sort of was like, you know what? I'm more than 50% through. I'm just going to say that I like the whole album. And you can definitely listen to it in succession. And it's not, there are certainly elements like you had been mentioning. There's, sludge, doom, space, psych, but each song is really sort of different. Like it's built from the same materials, but it's not repetitive to the point where you're like, I just heard this, 2 tracks ago.
Yeah.
So again, I would urge people out there, if you're into any of the bands that we've been talking about, and you're looking, half the fun for me in doing a deep dive or doing this new program is to be able to showcase contemporary groups that deserve to have their music heard. So I would say you guys definitely fall into that category.
Oh, you're too kind.
Thank you.
I think, I think we're new enough that we haven't really had a chance to repeat ourselves yet. So I don't want to jinx anything in the future. But that's definitely, I think, an area that we've been challenging ourselves and trying to push against the confines of what we can do and push ourselves as musicians and arrangers, without kind of losing the script on just trying to be a good heavy psychedelic sludge band.
Well, it's been nice because the first few bands that whose music we've played have been very different, even though they all sort of fall within the same realm. And I would say that you guys, certainly in terms of the music you're playing and the vocal styling, is unique to what we've had so far. So I would say you certainly, granted, you're certainly new enough that you probably haven't repeated yourself, but even within the album, there's enough of a contrast between the songs so that it's worth listening to the whole album as opposed to just like picking up a single here or there.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's high praise.
High praise.
And I know we are in good company on this program. I saw you featured our good friends in Witch Tit not too long ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was telling Heather that because both bands being in the North Carolina area, that you might run in the same circles. But
definitely, there's unfortunately one of the venues we lost to the pandemic, the Maywood in Raleigh, is also a major hub for rehearsals. They have sort of like a two-part building. One was the venue and the other is the rehearsal spaces, which are still open and operating. And we recently started practicing there. And it's just been a huge hub for heavy bands, particularly in the Raleigh area. So, we rub elbows just going to practice and bumping into folks from Witch Tit, Lightning Born. Obviously, Trad is in Crystal Spiders as well, so there's that connection. We were just going to practice the other week, and Mike Dean from Corrosion of Conformity was walking out with Doza Hawes, who plays with him in Lightning Born, and also drums for Mega Colossus, and recently was filling in for COC as well. So they were just running through some of that material before jetting off to a festival. It's a really fertile and inspiring area to be playing in. There's always, there's ebbs and flows like with any scene, but I think there's pretty consistently a really strong undercurrent of heavy bands in the area. So no shortage of good friends and good shows to go to.
Yeah. Well, and because I know you guys are probably going to be playing your shows in October in the neighborhood, either in North Carolina or possibly South Carolina or the surroundings. So if you're there, you should definitely check out Doomsday Profit. I know you can find them on social media and on Bandcamp. But yeah, keep an eye out for In Idle Orbit coming out in November, and check out Abandoned Hope. It's a banger. I will throw that out there. And yeah, I mean, it was it's interesting. It's always interesting. I spoke to a guy named Patrick Nahoda who has a band called Nahoda in Nashville, and he was telling me that's you wouldn't think that Nashville would have a cool, metal scene, but it does. I think certainly North Carolina is a little bit more in tune with what I would imagine would have a good metal scene, but it's cool to know that it's really a great place where there's a lot going on.
Yeah. Well, I think, COC was a big boon to the state from the 80s onward. But, it's a fertile ground where there's enough progressive university kind of influence, but it's still very much a conservative Southern state. And, that kind of conflict is always fertile ground for bands like us.
Sure.
Well, did you say you lived in Lee County?
Our drummer Trad lives in Lee County. Yeah.
Lee County. That's funny because I live in Illinois and I live in Lee County.
A lot of Lees, I guess.
A lot of Lees.
Yeah, that's funny. Did you going to have a pre-order on Bandcamp, or are you just going to release your album?
So pre-orders go up on October 1st, this Friday, which is also Bandcamp Friday.
Bandcamp Friday, yeah.
So we're going to try to take advantage of that as best we can. We have a video that is being worked on right now that we're hoping to put out later towards the end of October. And then we'll be releasing the album in November. More shows are in the works as well. We're currently hashing out the final details for a short tour with Cosmic Reaper from Charlotte, North Carolina, that will take us to Atlanta and Asheville, and then back home to Raleigh. And then looking to fill out the winter and into the spring with some more regional touring and kind of see how far we can get on our weekends.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds really good.
So hopefully it'll be a little bit easier to keep an eye on us than it has been through these bunker years. But
sure, yeah. Well, now I think we're all emerging from the bunker. It'll be nice now that it's going to be a little bit more settled down. But I'm really glad that you guys are still able to make some headway, and the album will be coming out in November. For those of you out there, in terms of the spectrum of music that's coming out of North Carolina that's been on our show, Witch Tit is a little bit more of a traditional doom, more operatic vocals. But if you're looking for something a little harsher, just in terms of the sound of the instruments or the vocals, then Doomsday Prophet is definitely for you. I would give it 2 big thumbs up myself. I know Heather, I don't want to put words in Heather's mouth, but she had said she enjoyed it as well.
Yeah.
So I don't want to put you on the spot, but
yes, I thought it was very good. I really like it a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to it.
Yeah. Well, it's a unified front on Happy Hour with Heather and Guest. We both are fans of the music, so
we like that. What is it? The people united will never be divided. So we like those unified fronts.
There we go. Yeah. Well, it's a great album. I'm glad you guys are making the most of the opportunities to play live, and get those pre-orders in on October 1st. if you're in the area, check them out. Otherwise, get the demo that's on Bandcamp right now.
And stay tuned. Hopefully, like I said, we'll be stretching out our tour paths a little farther beyond our state. There's the nice thing about being on the East Coast is you don't have to drive very far to be in a whole new area. So definitely trying to make the most of the time we can set aside.
Yeah, we're not going to be slowing down anytime soon. We're
Yeah, that's for sure.
Be making up for all that lost time during 2020.
Yeah.
We'll keep the tempos slow, but the work pace very fast.
There you go. Slow tempos, quick work pace, excellent music, all the food groups. So be sure to check out Doomsday Profit. See them if you're going to be in the area. Otherwise, get their music. And thank you guys so much for taking the time to speak with us.
Of
Thanks
course.
for having us.
Thank you, Andrew and Heather. It was a pleasure.
So good luck with everything. I wish you the best.
Thank you very
Take
much.
care, guys.
And, hopefully we'll make it to your town before too long.
Awesome.
That would be great.
Heather, you're in Illinois. Andrew, where are you at?
I'm in Virginia, Alexandria, Virginia.
Oh, perfect.
Right on.
Well, then you'll probably see us first.
Oh, sounds good. All right. Take care.
Take care, y'all.
Bye.
Thanks again.
Have a good one.
Bye.